Joining us on the line is Representative Louie Gohmert from Texas. And Representative Gohmert is a stalwart, particularly on the illegal immigration issue. Now, Speaker Boehner today came out with his plan on what he wants to do. And I need to give a 30-second background and then throw it to Representative Gohmert for his opinion. Today, Speaker Boehner basically went to the GOP caucus, and he told the GOP caucus that what he wants to do is pass a full-funded omnibus package through next September, and the funding for President Obama's executive amnesty would expire as of March, would be the idea. Now, this is idiotic. It's really foolish. And it's foolish because what he really needs to do is just fund everything through January, get Republicans in the Senate. Then we're not negotiating with Harry Reid. We're negotiating with Mitch McConnell, and you have a bunch of Republicans negotiating with Republicans. And then you pass each department funding separately. And that way, there's no risk of a government shutdown because every department is funded separately. Even if Obama doesn't like the bill passed on Homeland Security, he's shutting down Homeland Security, but he's not shutting down the entire government. Instead, Speaker Boehner is pushing forward an omnibus package that is going to result in a government shutdown, which is supposedly what he most wants to avoid. It's absolutely asinine. Joining us on the line is Representative Louie Gohmert from Texas. Louie, how are you doing?
Well, as far as I know, Ben, I'm okay. You neglected in the introduction of me to mention that I am one of the officers in the Ben Shapiro fan club, but that's okay.
Well, I appreciate it, Louie. Let me ask you, these reports have now come out about what Speaker Boehner wants to do on all of this. Yep. And there are only two explanations I can come up with for this. He's stupid or cynically manipulating because he actually doesn't mind the executive amnesty. Which one is it?
Well, and one of the points, I'm not sure, but I do know this. One of the proposals that was leading the charge this week with our leadership was, okay, we may just do the omnibus through the end of the fiscal year, next September 30th, for everything except the Department of Homeland Security, and then we'll do that short term into March, and then we'll be able, with Republicans in the House and Senate, to then defund the president's amnesty. But a couple of problems, two of the number of problems with that. First of all, the president, and this came out today, has already got a facility, and they're filling with 1,000 new workers to start immediately processing these permits. Most of us were told that they wouldn't be able to act that quickly. Well, they're not missing any bets. They're moving fast. So if we don't do something before March, then the permits will be out there, surely a majority, not most of them, and that's when it's going to be next to impossible to pull them back. We've got to act much, much more quickly than that. And the other thing, too, is, telling our conference that we're going to basically take the Department of Homeland Security hostage so that if the president's not willing to sign the bill, then we're going to not provide the money for Homeland Security until he agrees to, defund the amnesty. Well, as most good hostage takers know, you don't take a hostage that the other people would be willing to let you shoot. That's and the DHS. I mean, that'd be like holding the Department of Defense hostage, like our leaders did back in July of 2011, when our leaders assured us and me personally, because I kept going, are you crazy? The super committee will never reach an agreement. We're going to devastate our own defense, take us back pre-World War II levels. You can't do that. No. They'll never happen because they don't want the cuts to Medicare. Are you kidding? They get the cuts to Medicare by preventing the super committee reaching agreement, and then they can blame us because, they cared about rich friends more than they did about seniors, and then they can run those commercials in 2012, and they would love to see the massive gutting of our Defense Department. Well, everything I said was right. It turned out that way. You can't hold the Defense Department hostage with this administration. You can't hold the Border Patrol hostage and say, gee, we're not going to fund the Border Patrol if you don't defund your amnesty. Really? You mean you're not going to pay for Border Patrol to secure the border? Okay. We'll leave it wide open, and then we get to blame you because you won't fund it. I mean, Ben, does that make sense? We should not be saying we're not going to fund the Border Patrol unless you walk away from your amnesty. Really? You think that's going to convince him to walk away from it?
Well, Louie, this is what drives me insane, is that the same Republican establishment that was ripping Ted Cruz a new one over the government shutdown back in 2013, sure. These are the same people who are saying that the worst idea that you could possibly do would be to pass a fully funded omnibus package holding back Obamacare funding because it would look like a government shutdown to the media. And now they want to do exactly the same thing when all they literally have to do is fund the government for like 4 weeks, and suddenly you have a Senate majority, and suddenly you're not negotiating with Harry Reid. And why in the world would they do this? It's making me cynical, Louie. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I'm looking at this, and it's turning me into. It
causes me some concern when our speaker, says, well, there's only a few knuckleheads, like Gohmert in this incoming group, and the rest are going to be good team players. Really, I don't think they know that they're supposed to be good team players. I think that the majority of them may know they need to represent their districts and not some establishment leadership.
Yeah, I don't know how to read this other than there's a group of folks at the Wall Street Journal and at the Chamber of Commerce who actually like Obama's executive amnesty, and they want to look like they're opposing it without actually doing so. Because we can all see how this is going to shake out.
Yeah, and our leader, Boehner specifically, has basically been advocating for something like this for 2 years. He had hoped to have something like this by May of 2013, and that didn't happen. Well, surely by August of 2013, or at least then when that didn't happen, by the end of 2013, and then 2014, and then in July we were about to pass a de facto amnesty bill in July of this past summer that the Speaker didn't let anybody read until Tuesday evening before we were supposed to vote on Thursday. And thankfully, and I read it and finished about 2 a.m., laid down for 3 hours, reread it, and then met with Michelle Bachmann, Steve King, first thing that morning, and said, here are all my notes. Can you believe this? This is de facto amnesty. And they said, can we get copies of your notes, highlighting, blue pen, black pen. And then they'll say Numbers USA, Tea Party Patriots. They got involved. People wanted copies of my notes. But, by Thursday morning, they started the debate. But so many people had heard from their districts that this was a bad bill. It was going to create amnesty, not in name, but in fact. And so by Thursday noon, they didn't have the votes anymore. They had them before people had a chance to read the bill. And I'm afraid we're going to do the same thing with this thing. We're being told that they hope they'll have a vote on Wednesday, and they'll try to have it filed by, like midnight on Monday. We'll get to see it probably on Tuesday, and then vote on Wednesday. This is a massive, massive bill. And you can't help but wonder how many of the people that are already telling the Republican whip team, yeah, I'll vote for it, were making promises in 2010. I'll never vote for a big bill like that unless I have a chance to read it. Our own leadership said we will always give you 3 days at least, at a minimum, if you put us back in the majority. And now they've been defining, well, if you file it by midnight on Monday, then that means you can vote on it on Wednesday. Well, that's a problem.
Unbelievable. Well, Louie, is there a conservative caucus in the House that is willing to stop all of this? Because now they have a double task. Now, if you're a conservative in the House, you have to not only stop this particular omnibus package, but you have to put forward a short-term continuing resolution so that we don't actually have a de facto government shutdown. Is there enough of a presence in the House from conservatives to actually stop all of this? I mean, there was an attempt to oust Speaker Boehner back in 2013. Just a month ago, they went forward with a vote in the House that reelected Speaker Boehner as Speaker of the House, and it went through very quietly with very little hubbub. I think that if people had known Boehner was going to do this, it would have been a lot more contentious. Are there enough conservatives in the House to actually stop this routine, or are we going to see Speaker Boehner play Charlie Brown to President Obama's Lucy once again on this stuff?
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure if it's actually fair to compare our leadership to Charlie Brown, because at times, they've consulted on this stuff with the White House. And, I'd like to see somebody actually fall when they try to kick the ball and the ball gets stroked away, because at least that way I would feel more sure that they didn't know the ball was going to get moved. But anyway, I don't know. I'm hoping that's what we're working on. We're hoping to get enough people that say, look, you can't do this way. People gave us a chance with the majority in the Senate and more votes in the House, not because they trusted us as some great pillar of virtue, but because they distrusted the Democrats even more. But if we aren't faithful now, I just can't see them coming back to us. And even worse, you'd have people be so disgusted they would turn to a third party. And I don't think we have time to grow a third party enough to save the country before we're just completely down the toilet.
Oh, yeah, Louie, and this is what I fear. I mean, and I'm seeing the establishment do the same routine again and again. Jeb Bush did an interview with the Wall Street Journal CEO Forum yesterday, in which he said that whoever runs for president for the Republican Party next time around should be willing to lose primaries in order to win the general. The big money in our party keeps saying to the base, the same base that wins all the midterm elections, they keep saying to that base needs to basically sit down and shut up, that the big money people know what's going on when it comes to the presidential elections. So if we would all just go away, if we would all just buy into the executive amnesty program, if we would all just if we would protest the executive amnesty, but then pass a bill. I mean, Jeb Bush actually suggested that. He and President Obama ended up on exactly the same page. Obama says, if you don't like my executive amnesty, pass a bill. Jeb Bush says, I don't like President Obama's executive amnesty. You know what we should do? Pass a bill. I mean, when we're agreeing with Obama on this and when we're allowing the leverage play to happen, what power does Congress even have? And why should anybody vote Republican from now on if we're going to see this sort of cowardice?
Well, if we don't stand firm, I can understand them deserting us. But the thing is, there is big national money at the top of the Democratic Party, which makes the Koch brothers' money, pale in comparison. They can't hold a candle to the massive amounts of wealthy Democratic dollars that come flowing in. And even though the president likes to call Wall Street fat cats and take pot shots at them, it's like there's a wink and a nod. I'll call you fat cats and make fun of you, but I'm going to let you be richer than you've ever been in your life. And Ben, I think we ought to make more of the fact that the president himself admitted a year ago that for the first time in the history of the country, 95% of the income in the United States during his administration has gone to the top 1% income earners. So he talked about the fat cats, but they've never, ever had it so good, so fat. Never in our history has 95% of the income gone to the top 1%. But his policies are assuring that happens. He can talk like he is sympathy for the middle class and the nation's working poor, but he is driving their wages down, and that's what this amnesty is going to do. These 5 million are driving the wages lower for especially for minorities. I mean, they're at the far upper end of the unemployment rates. Blacks, Hispanics, I mean, they're at their rates are out of sight, and yet they're going even higher. And this president, if he didn't like being tied with the Carter administration for having 92 million plus of working age, but have given up even trying to work, Carter had set that record, and now Obama's tied that record for much of the past year. By bringing in 5 million people who came illegally and giving them work permits, he will have a league all of his own. 97 million will end up giving up on work, bound to. So maybe if that's what he's trying to do, separate himself from Carter, this will help do it. But Republicans should not help. And, the National Chamber of Commerce, unlike my local chambers of commerce, which are just super organizations. The National Chamber has been pushing for amnesty, been saying, in effect, we'll donate, we'll give whatever it takes to get an amnesty. And by golly, both parties' leaders seem to be intent on delivering.
Louie, what exactly should we as citizens be doing at this point? I mean, presumably we should be calling our Congress people and expressing our ire at all of this, because it's one thing for President Obama to do it. It's another thing for Republicans to go along with it.
Yeah, and Ben, it makes a difference when people call their members of Congress. It makes a difference when they email their members of Congress. It'll take too long to send a note because I think that goes through Ohio. But emailing and calling makes a difference. I had somebody on the floor of the House tonight. We just finished voting, and that's why I was late getting back to calling you. But we had a friend on the floor say, I've been telling our leadership I was going to vote for this thing, but man, I've been hearing from too many people that are saying this isn't what we elected you to do. You can't vote for this. So, Ben, it makes a difference. It still makes a difference. And that is the only way we were able to stop the Boehner de facto amnesty back in July, is people were burning up the phone lines and emailing just nonstop to their members of Congress, and it made a huge difference.
Well, folks, make sure that you do that. Make sure you call your congressperson and let them know that this attempted surrender by the Republican Party cannot stand. Representative Louie Gohmert, great to talk to you, Louie, and really appreciate your battle on behalf of right.
I appreciate so much what you do, Ben. You are a light on the hill. So thank you, friend.
Hey, thanks so much.